Thank you for listening to Footnotes, a Fellowship Mosaic podcast. This is a space for us to dig deeper into Scripture, what is happening in our community and culture, and continue the conversations we start on Saturday nights. We're excited to have you join us as we pursue truth, holiness, and redemption together.
Well, hello and welcome back to Footnotes. It's Nick here, and hey, thanks for joining us. This is our Mosaic podcast where we just continue the conversation of what we've been talking about on Saturday nights. And we are in the middle of the season of Lent, in fact, about halfway through Lent as we head toward Easter. And we talked about as a body taking this as an opportunity to fast. We define fast, first of all, as the denying of food to the self for a spiritual purpose. And we said in the history of Lent, believers have often chosen to extend that to other kinds of self-denial. So it might be denying yourself digital media of a certain kind, or sweets, or a particular kind of food. But the purpose of fasting is to deny yourself something for a spiritual purpose, to seek the Lord in a particular way. And so I just wanted to do a little check-in and talk some about how that's going and what we can learn, things that I'm learning in this process, and give us some challenges as we continue in the Lent season. One question I've had is, what if I didn't start at the beginning of Lent? And I would say, no problem, jump in. The 40 days are a tradition and a set-aside time to do it together, but the purpose is about seeking the Lord. And so there's every reason to start now, even if we're halfway through Lent and you're like, I haven't actually set anything aside, I'm not doing anything with it. That's no reason to stop you from jumping in. But I wanted to talk about a particular issue that I find myself experiencing regularly in the past when I've tried Lent or tried a fast or anything like that. And that is the sense of aimlessness that I often experience. So I will, in the past, often think about Lent and go, okay, what am I going to give up this year? Oh, this is something that I seem to depend on too much or need too much, so I'm going to give that up for the 40 days. And it becomes this exercise of the will, like giving up this thing that I want, and I'm not going to it again. I'm like, okay, that's good that I don't need that. But nothing spiritually changes. We say that a fast is giving up food for a spiritual purpose, but I don't have a sense that I'm growing spiritually. It just seems like this exercise and discipline of giving something up, which is not a bad thing, but it's not the purpose of a fast. If you're giving up, news media for the sake of thinking you're too dependent on news media, that's a great discipline. That's a good thing to do. If you're giving up sugar because you think you're too dependent on sugar and you have a sugar problem, excellent. That's great. And that there is a kind of spiritual purpose to weakening our dependence on things that aren't healthy for us. But fasting is something beyond that. Fasting is giving up whatever the particular thing is for the purpose of pursuing the Lord. I mentioned in the first podcast I did on Lent that I've been working through a book by Ronnie Floyd on the purpose of fasting. Ronnie Floyd is the pastor of Cross Church here in Northwest Arkansas for years and years and years, and his son is now pastoring that church. But Ronnie has taught for decades, taught the church on prayer and fasting and his purpose. He has a powerful testimony, his own story about it. And as I've been working through his book, I've learned a lot. And one of the things he points to, he points to Nehemiah chapter 1, which I'm going to read a few verses of that because there's something I think powerfully insightful here that Ronnie brings forward. In Nehemiah 1, verses 1-4, we read, "The words of Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah. In the month of Kislev, in the 20th year, while I was in the citadel of Susa," so he's in exile in Persia, "Hanani, one of my brothers, came from Judah with some other men. And I questioned them about the Jewish remnant that had survived the exile, and also about Jerusalem." So Nehemiah is living in Persia as part of the diaspora, the exiled people, and his brother still lives back in Judah. So his brother comes to visit, and he wants to know, how are our people doing back in Judah? That's the question. And in verse 3, it says, "They said to me, those who survived the exile and are back in the province are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates have been burned with fire." Verse 4, "When I heard these things, I sat down and wept. And for some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven." And what Ronnie Floyd points out in this passage is that it was a particular burden, something that was on Nehemiah's heart that drove him to fast. He was choosing the fast because something had gripped him. In this situation, it was concern for the people of Judah, the concern for the broken city of Jerusalem. And so it was that desire for the Lord's people that drove him to fast, so that as Nehemiah fasted, there was no question in his mind why he was doing it. He had a sense of, I'm not just generally pursuing the Lord, I'm pursuing the Lord for this in this particular way, for this particular thing. And one of the things I've recognized is far too often when I enter Lent or fast, I have no spiritual aim. I don't have anything I'm particularly praying about. I don't have a particular thing that I'm taking to the Lord. I'm just kind of generally jumping in this Lent rhythm because it's important. Now, when you think about disciplines and rhythms like this in the church, there's, here come Nick's two ditches. There are two ditches we can always fall in. One is the ditch of saying, well, here's the rhythm, here's the tradition, I'm just going to do it because it's the thing we all do. And you don't have a clear spiritual aim for why you're doing it. The other extreme is to say, I don't do meaningless rhythms and rituals, therefore I'm not going to participate in this discipline, so I just reject the whole thing. Both of those are unhelpful and unhealthy. The disciplines are there for a purpose. The disciplines are there because those who've gone before us have found them really helpful. So we don't reject the disciplines, but we also refuse to do them in a rote way without purpose. And this takes work to go, I'm going to engage this discipline and I'm going to engage it with a clear why. And so one of the things that Ronnie recommends is that we would take time at the onset of Lent, which we're already past that, to ask, Lord, why am I doing this year? What is it that you want to do in me? Is there a particular sin that you want to address? Is there an area of greater intimacy that you want to draw me into? Is there a person in my life that I'm praying for? Is there a need? Is there discernment, something big in front of me that I have to choose? Lord, why are you calling me into this fast at this time? And then once you've sought the Lord on that and you've chosen, hey, this is what I'm fasting for. This is the spiritual purpose, the spiritual aim that's out in front of me. I'm not just giving up sugar, news media, lunch, whatever the thing is, for the sake of it. I'm giving it up because I'm pursuing this. I'm praying about this. So in those moments when I feel the longing for the thing I'm letting go of, I actually am going to the Lord specifically with an aim in mind. So for me, I have been praying Philippians chapter 3, verse 10. That has kind of been my Lent prayer, that I may know him and the power of his resurrection, and may share his sufferings, becoming like him in his death. That's my desires. I want to know Christ more intimately and more purposefully, and that might sound pretty vague, but really having this verse to pray has really given sharpness and focus to my prayer time during Lent, and that's what I've been centering on. I've been centering on that verse, Philippians 3:10, as my prayer during Lent. So what I would encourage all of us to do, as we're in this season of Lent, and it's fine to start now. It's great to start now. Even if you started Lent earlier and you realize, I don't know that I have that clear purpose, that's great. Pray and seek one today. Ask the Lord the question, Lord, what might you want to do in me this Lent season? Is there a concern in my life? Maybe it's the decisions of my child, and I want to bring those to the Lord and pray that he would work there. Maybe it's a hurting relationship that I have. Maybe it's a job decision. Maybe it's a vision for a lost neighbor or friend. Whatever it is, I encourage you today to ask the Lord for some guidance on what he might want you to focus on during this Lent season, and then take that and make that your aim of every day. As you're denying yourself, as we move toward the cross in our calendar years, we move toward Good Friday and Easter, take that thing that the Lord lays on your heart, set it before him, and say, I'm going to pray about this every day. I'm going to pray this prayer as I deny myself in the Lent season. This is going to be my why. This is the thing that I'm pursuing the Lord for during Lent. And I'm convinced that why, that clarity, will give aim and purpose to your self-denial in a way that makes it more powerful, more meaningful, and really helps us get to the heart of why we fast in the first place. Hey, Mosaic, thanks for joining us in this conversation. I'm excited to hear what the Lord does through our church family during this Lent season. We have some beautiful times of worship coming up, particularly around Holy Week. We'll have our Tenebrae service the week before on Palm Saturday, and then we'll go into our Easter celebration the following week. I encourage you to be prayerful leading into those times and prayerful about who might need to be there. Who in your friends, families, co-workers, circles needs to hear the good news of Jesus that would benefit from worshiping with us. The gospel will clearly be taught over those 2 Saturdays of Palm Saturday and Easter, and we're excited for people to hear the good news that Jesus has died, Jesus has risen, he's coming again, and he is saving people here in Northwest Arkansas, in the world. We're excited to celebrate with you. I love you, Mosaic. Have a great week.